Petruzzo has a great layout and a great collection. Both are housed in this 3,000 square foot recreation room. The major part of the collection is displayed on shelves, and the 30 by 25 foot layout is at the far end of the room.
Well, I was after what my ideal of what Lionel would have made in the 30s for a showroom layout. I wanted people to come down here and see what the trains would have looked like, brand new if at all possible, in the year that they were made.
The layout is designed for trouble-free operation. There are 3 independent loops. The switches are not connected, and the sidings are used for display only. 3 trains operate at one time.
I've always liked longer trains. Lionel sets started with 3 or 4 cars, then the bigger sets and the bigger costly sets had more cars. So I just assume with that theory, the more cars you add, the more impressive the set is.
The trains in action are indeed impressive. There are 2 orange 9s pulling 19 nickel-trim 500 series freights, a 408E apple green set with 4 extra cars, and the train which has become Frank's trademark, the famous Petruzzo coal train. 2 390s, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 516 rubber stamped hoppers, trailed by 3 of the rare 517 coal train cabooses. Not only does Frank have every Lionel standard gauge accessory on his layout, he has every known variation. For example, here's 3 437 switch towers, including the extremely rare orange roof version. There are 2 840 power stations. The early version has a dark green base, and the brass switches are on the right side of the smokestacks. The later version has a lighter green base, called nickel green by collectors, and the switches, now made of nickel, are on the left side of the smokestacks. There's 4 438 illuminated signal towers, 7 versions of the 127 illuminated station, 7 439 panel boards, 5 roundhouse sections, 3 versions of the Hellgate Bridge, one with the early colors, the late colors, and the transition Hellgate. Then there's 3 Lionel City stations and 2 140L tunnels. Frank has all 3 versions of the green and cream Lionel City station, the double window, the single window with and without exterior lights, and the same 3 versions in the later red and ivory paint scheme. Frank's layout also sports both early and late terrace stations, and 9 versions of the Lionelville stations.
Well, first of all, I consider myself a purist. I don't want anything repainted or even touched up. It has to be 100% original. I have nothing against even reproduction parts, but I'd rather get one that has original parts, take the original trim off, and put it on an original piece. I like pieces to be 100% original. We refer to the way I collect as upgrading collecting. Some people will collect for numbers. They want to have one of every number Lionel made. Some people want to have one of everything they made mint in the box. Some people want to have one of everything they made and different variations of it. I like to collect all of those. I believe in upgrading. I'll buy a whole set just to get one roof that's better than a roof that I have. I'll switch to better roof, put it on my better set. Now I have a second set, which is almost as good as the set I have on the shelf, but I've got a second set now for trading. There's a lot of trading done in this hobby. I have 11 variations of state sets, and I've gone through at least 50 state sets in order to upgrade car here that's a little better here to get a better one here. I'd say I've gone through at least 50 Blue Comet sets also to get the 11 that I have.
The Lionel State and Blue Comet sets are the premier items of Lionel standard gauge, both from a standpoint of dollar value and the prestige connected with having them in a collection. Most collectors would be thrilled to have one or two sets in their collections. Frank has 11 of each, and they are all different. Lionel made state sets between 1929 and 1935. Early versions were headed by a single-motored 381E, and later sets were headed by twin-motored 408Es.
There's basically three categories. There's the early green sets that basically have the apple green window trim. Then there's the brown sets, and then there's the other green cars that have the cream window trims. Now there are variations within those variations. The browns has two variations. They have the later series, which is the full chocolate roof with the brass stamp journals, and then they have the earlier brown set, which is the two-tone roof. It's the chocolate brown roof with the tan ventilators and the cast journals, the very first journals that came out.
Another difference has to do with the rivets at the ends of the cars. Only the early green cars came with rivets, but Frank has a brown set that has rivets.
This brown one has the rivets, this one doesn't. You may find a car here and there with rivets, but I've never seen a complete set with rivets.
Frank also has a set of prototype state set cars. The normal production cars are named California, Colorado, and New York. The cars on the prototype set are named Vermilion Valley, Starcrest, and Van Rensselaer. Petruzzo also has 11 different Blue Comet sets. The first Blue Comet was headed by a 390E. In 1931, the top-of-the-line 400E replaced the 390. In 1933, a black 392 headed the set. Brass trim was used until 1937, when the trim was changed to nickel. The most sought-after of the brass trim sets is the version with the cream stripe.
A Blue Comet engine with the cream stripe is very rare to find.
Other variations include cast journals and brass stamp journals, trailing trucks with thick rims, and trailing trucks with thin rims. Vestibules painted the same blue as the sides of the car, and vestibules painted the dark blue of the roof. There are even two versions of the brass plate on the tender. Most plates have black printing on a brass background. An extremely hard-to-find version has the letters in brass reversed out of a red background.
Then, of course, is the toughest one of a kind that I have in Blue Comets are the engine tender and the two cars up here. Some people refer to them as the purple Blue Comet cars. They're much deeper in colors, and we've never known another set to exist. Plus, all Blue Comet sets are three cars. I only found two. I'd love to find that third car.
Frank's approach is the essence of what the toy train hobby is all about. He loves the trains, and through years of study, observation, and acquisition, he has earned the reputation as possessor of the finest Lionel Classic Period collection in the world. And, like any great collection, it includes a number of extremely rare and unusual items.
Not too many people know that the standard gauge billboards exist. Lionel had a magazine, and I believe was the early 40s. And they offered these, if you sent for subscription, you got 4 billboards free, a set of 4 free. They also offered at a later date a second set of billboards, which are even harder.
The rare 436 power station has Edison service instead of power station. Frank paid $11,900 plus the buyer's fee for this uncatalogued set.
The unusual thing is that any 9 orange set in like new condition, boxed, is very hard to find. But this particular one is an uncatalogued box. It has a P.O. box number, P.O. 50, which is made designated for a Pittsburgh store. It came up at an auction, and I went to the auction in hopes I'd have a chance of purchasing it. Well, the bidding was hot and heavy, but I was lucky enough to obtain it.
Lionel electric type engines have openings punched in their frames. The frame on this 402 is not punched. One-of-a-kind items include sets painted in colors Lionel considered producing, but never did. These unusual colors are called paint samples. Another seldom seen accessory is the black and red 200 turntable. Frank does not agree with those who say standard gauge is dying.
There seem to be more people after Lionel Classic period trains. They don't seem to stay on the tables very long. If a Lionel Classic period standard gauge train is anywhere near excellent, it's bought immediately. Everybody tells me standard gauge is plentiful. The prices of standard gauge are going down because it stands to reason. Those who played with standard gauge are dying. They're getting old. But I don't see it. So I have to take their word that standard gauge is dying versus the facts I see. Standard gauge is hotter than ever. The real aggressive collector. This is the man that is in pursuit of these trains with an obsession. This man can't find enough trains to buy. That's what I see in Lionel Classic period standard gauge. And every year, the prices go up. Recession, no recession, Republicans, Democrats, Lionel standard gauge trains are going up and up, and the chase has more people wanting to buy. I attend auctions. The prices are getting higher and higher. And instead of less bidders, there's more bidders.
Shirley, Frank's wife, is also enthusiastic about toy trains.
We got along fabulously with trains. She'd even come to some of the train shows. And I think she got hooked. Whether she got hooked because of me or she now likes them, she has as much fun with these as I do. I've made friendships that are unbelievable. I've made friends throughout the country, and that's a great feeling. Roy Jackson, Dennis Roche, we're all in this together. We believe in the buddy system. They help me out one way, I try to help them out another way. Teamwork wins in sports. Teamwork wins in collecting trains. The loner loses.
Roy Jackson has helped Frank add a number of operating accessories. Roy believes insulated track is the best method to activate accessories.
The advantage to it is there are no springs to be constantly adjusted. So far as crossing gates, bells, gatemen, and that type of thing, they work almost flawlessly. You simply take some junk track and you take the middle rail out and take the cardboard insulators out, and then you pry apart one of the outside rails, put in the cardboard insulators, put the rail back in, and push the tabs back down. There would be a plastic insulator on each end to keep it from grounding out instead of a normal track pin. It's very easy done and very positive operation.
For example, to wire a crossing gate, one wire goes to the insulated track section and the other to the accessory terminal on the transformer. When the train comes in contact with the insulated rail, the circuit is completed and the accessory is activated.
I enjoy the peace of mind that trains give me. I come down into my room, and my wife refers to it as my executive sandbox. I come down, I run a train, I look at a train, I forget the world. I don't know about taxes. I don't know about governments. I don't know about crime. I know about Lionel classic period standard gauge trains.
Three-year-old Elliot Feinberg's dream was to bring the joys of model railroading to as many people as possible. EnterTRAINment is a model train layout located in the largest shopping mall in the United States. Elliot Feinberg built this layout. This is his story.
Welcome to EnterTRAINment. Come on in.
EnterTRAINment is comprised of 3 sections. The east and west sections are built against the wall, and the center section is a peninsula in the middle of the 2,000 square foot space. There are 12 independent loops and over 150 switches. The layout has 9 levels. The first is 4 feet off the floor, and the highest is 90 inches. Each is numbered in the hundreds. The first level is designated 100, the second level 200, and so on. There is over 1/2 mile of guardrails track and 15 miles of wire. The trains and accessories are O-gauge Lionel. The layout was designed by Elliot and built with the help of about 20 railroading pals from the Twin City area. Work started in June of 1992, and EnterTRAINment was opened to the public on August 15th. Improvements and additions are constantly being made. The benchwork is made of steel and fire-resistant wood. A sprinkler system protects the area under the layout. The mountains are made with Durabond plaster applied over metal lath. The layout costs $250,000. Elliot uses a system of passing sidings and relays to operate multiple trains on the same loop.
Well, currently, we're up to a capability of 17, but the room is designed for over 30, and eventually we think we might be able to get over 40. So Stan and Roy is going to have a little catching up to do.
To explain the system, let's examine the 200 level. It consists of a single 125-foot loop with 2 passing sidings. There is a passenger station next to one siding. The other siding is hidden behind the farm scene. 2 trains traveling in opposite directions operate on this loop. Here's how they get past each other. The system requires the outside rail to be insulated, but since EnterTRAINment uses guardrails track with wooden ties, the outside rails are already insulated. All you have to do is add fiber pins to the ends of the track section. Switch A is always set to direct the Milwaukee Road passenger train into the station siding. A relay is connected to the last section of track. When the train comes in contact with this section, the relay is activated, cutting off current to the center rail and stopping the train. The freight comes out of the tunnel traveling in the opposite direction. It goes through switch B, and as it reaches the last section of track before switch A, it activates both switches. Switch A goes to the straight position, allowing the freight to proceed, and switch B turns to allow the passenger train back on the main line. This system is used throughout the layout and enables Elliot to operate as many as 5 trains on one loop, 3 in one direction and 2 in the other. Considering Elliot has 12 loops, it would appear Stan Roy's world record for simultaneous train operation is indeed in jeopardy.
If all goes as planned, we should be running 40 trains, so Stan Roy, watch out.
The 900, 90 inches off the floor, is the highest level and easily the most impressive.
That's the one I've nicknamed the Grand Tour. That goes over the entire room. It forms a connection between all 3 areas of the room.
It consists of 4 passing sidings and crosses over 4 bridges, including the 12-foot-long orange plexiglass bridge with the see-through bottom, and the impressive silver suspension bridge illuminated with lights that change colors.
The Lionel equipment has been spectacular. We put Delaware and Hudson RS3 on the track in September. It did not come off the track, I think, till March. It did actually need a motor at that time. All the trains here run 11 and a half hours a day, 6 days a week, and 8 hours on Sunday. There's no rest at the Mall of America.
For continual operation like this, the CAN motors used on Lionel's cheaper equipment are more efficient than the AC motors found on the more expensive Lionel engines.
We started off running the AC equipment here, and it was just a nightmare. I mean, things were going down all the time.
Worm armatures were part of the problem. Here's the armature of a Lionel AC motor after 1 week of operation.
The first problem is that the commutator has a path worn in it so badly that we've got a spot that's entirely bare. I think you can see right here that there's a spot on the shaft where it goes through the bearing plate that the shaft has been reduced in size. The gears are getting pretty badly worn. And lastly, the field windings here, the windings on the armature are totally burnt.
CAN motors don't have armatures.
I'm absolutely thrilled to death with all the CAN motor equipment that we have. It runs. Usually the first thing that goes wrong is the gears will go out. So we'll replace the gears. After about 2 sets of gears, we go to a motor maybe, and then after that, we might have worn out the wheels or the rollers or whatever. So, and they're nice because you get the parts and away you go. They're quick to fix.
It is imperative all the engines go forward all the time. To ensure this, the E-units are removed.
If you leave the electronic E-units in there, they have a tendency to be unreliable, and they will shift out of the locked position from time to time. They tend to forget. And we can't have them forgetting. They have to remember they have to go one way, and hard wiring is the way to go on that.
Most public toy train exhibits have accessories and encourage visitors to push buttons. EnterTRAINment has accessories and buttons too. The difference is, at EnterTRAINment, you can operate accessories that require reloading.
Yeah, there are other places that have interactive. They don't necessarily use the reloading accessories. We actually don't glue the ice cube to the man's paddle. We actually let the ice cube go in the car. And sometimes it falls down on the track and derails the train below. And we pick up the train and we pick up the ice cube and we go on with life. And it's fun. It's a little bit of a challenge to teach the general public how to use the accessories properly without abusing them. The kids have a tendency to like to really wail on the Iceman. He has a rough life.
EnterTRAINment is operated by Elliot and a 3-man staff.
I keep 3 employees on most of the time. One person, his job is carnival barker and conductor to punch tickets. The other person sells tickets and souvenirs from the window. And then the third person is my inside person. He is either busy fixing the trains, reloading the accessories for the people, or just generally talking to the customers.
Phones are located at various points around the layout. They direct the visitor's attention to various highlights. The original plans called for a wall of plexiglass to separate the people from the layout. But in keeping with Elliot's low-key and visitor-friendly approach, the layout opened without the plexiglass, and Elliot just never got around to installing it.
So sure, we get people bumping into the trains and knocking them off, and every once in a while there's a kid who can't keep his hands off. Most of the time, it's the kids are so excited they reach out to grab the train, and we just go over and put it back on the track, and let the people have fun seeing the wreck, because sometimes they really get a kick out of the wrecks. So it's no big deal. They're line-out trains. They're tough. We've got 27 6.3 volt transformers. They're ganged together in groups of 3 to form 9 power supplies. They're mounted onto 3 boards and scattered throughout the room, 1 per peninsula. So there's 9 little transformers on 1 board. No ZWs here. The train is actually being powered by DC.
Curtis switches are used.
I strongly recommend the Curtis. They cost a little more, they take a little longer to get, but the product is spectacular. We have not had a problem with those turnouts, and they look like they will last forever.
Structures include kits by Buildings Unlimited and some homes that may look familiar if you are a resident of St. Paul.
I drove around the city of St. Paul and took photographs of nice-looking houses all throughout the city. We took them over, got the pictures developed, picked out the ones we wanted, had them enlarged to an approximation of O scale.
Elliot cut out the windows and the outside shape, mounted it on plexiglass, and added illumination. The results are fresh and effective. The lighting system is controlled by computer.
A full 24-hour day representation is 15 minutes long. So we're actually open for 46 days per day.
Elliot regards financial considerations as a necessary evil. If he could have his way, admission would be free, and every day would be spent spreading the gospel of toy trains to anyone who would listen.
And one of the most satisfying parts of this business is seeing other people smile and having them be happy. I feel so satisfied. Because I was born in the 60s. I mean, Lionel was in its decline at that time. And I got trains and I loved them. And I played with them a lot, and I want to see that, that tradition continue. Part of it is an ego boost. It's fun to be a showman. I want to see people get hooked on trains again. I want this to be a great hobby. I've always liked Lionel trains. I want them to be number one. Model railroading has kept me out of trouble. When I was in high school and the kids around me were going to parties and drinking and finding out about drugs and sex and all that other stuff, I was at home in my basement playing with my trains. My parents thought I was a little odd, but gee, they should have considered themselves lucky, I think. One of my favorite things in design is, if you can possibly do it, use your walls for your scenery. You know, build around the perimeter. You get more from your layout. And that's what we did. We built the center peninsula so that, number one, we could have more trains, but number two, it was kind of built as a view block so that you didn't walk into the room and get exposed to the entire room in one shot. When you walk into EnterTRAINment, you are in a miniature world and you walk through the middle of it. It's not like you're behind glass. It's not like there's a barrier there. It's not like you walk around the outside and I mean, it's around you, 360 degrees. You actually have trains on both sides of the aisle. You're constantly being surrounded by trains. They're even over your head.
EnterTRAINment is located in the Mall of America. The Mall of America is not just another mall.
The mall is truly spectacular. People are overwhelmed when they come here. It's not really like any other mall that this country has ever seen. It's kind of, I guess it's kind of fashioned after the Edmonton Mall. I describe it as a square donut. Camp Snoopy is in the middle of the donut. That's a 7-acre amusement park under glass skylights.
There's a roller coaster. A log ride like the Shoot the Chutes at the old Riverview Park in Chicago. A carousel. A train ride. A truck ride. And a very impressive Lego exhibit.
Maintenance around here, we go by the motto, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If we see that a train is having problems, we'll deal with the problems as they come up. My ear is very tuned in to hearing a squeak, of a dry bearing. If it's dirty, we clean it. If it's broken, we fix it. And if it's squeaking, we oil it. There's a common myth about Gargrave's track. The Gargrave's track eats up your rollers and Gargrave's track eats up your wheels. Baloney. What does cause wheels to wear is electrical contact. When you don't get good electrical contact between the wheel and the rail or the roller and the rail, that's where it arcs, it pits, and your rollers and your wheels start to slowly disappear. We do not rely on the metal pins that are provided with the track for electrical contact. We have feeders going to every rail on every section of track if it's over, say, a foot long. Right now, we've already drawn over 100,000 visitors through EnterTRAINment, 100,000 paying customers.
Elliot is a happy man. EnterTRAINment is his pulpit, and he is preaching the gospel of toy trains to the multitudes. Now if he could just get the mall people to forget about the rent.